Patriotic comrades, by the end of this video, you're going to understand why Paul Buchanan's latest legal swing at Andrew Holness's election victory landed with the elegance of a belly flop in a kiddie pool, because today, oh boy, we're diving into a story filled with deadlines, drama, legal uppercuts, unexplained delays, and enough political plot twists to make Netflix jealous. And wait until you hear what happened with those last 18 ballot boxes. Trust me, this story is mad. Let's set the scene. Patriotic comrades, alright, picture this. It's election day in St. Andrew West Central. Holness versus Buchanan. Things start off looking surprisingly close. Like Jamaica might really witness a miracle. Close. After 87 of the 105 ballot boxes, Andrew Holness was down by almost 100 votes. But then, out of nowhere, 18 ballot boxes from Seaward Gardens said plot twist time, and suddenly Holness surged ahead like he got a power up from Super Mario. Final tally: Holness 7,054 votes, Buchanan 4,953 votes. Buchanan wasn't pleased. Understood, nobody likes plot twist when you're on the wrong side of them. Buchanan goes legal mode. Patriotic comrades, so Comrade Buchanan does what many politicians do when things look suspicious. He calls the lawyers, all of them. We're talking names like Hugh Wildman, Arnold Brown, Sherman Bryan, basically the Avengers of Jamaican litigation. He files complaints about irregularities, EVIS issues, voter ID confusion, you name it. But here's where the movie turns into a comedy. You know how every recipe has a best before date? Well, apparently, so do election challenges. The clock runs out. There's this little thing called the 14-day statutory window. Basically the legal version of if you're late, try again next year. The court said Buchanan waited too long. How long? Let's just say the judge described it as unexplained inaction. That means, big man, why you wait so long? Where were you? Who sent you? Justice Win Blair literally said the case was hit by a knockout blow in law. She ruled judicial review couldn't help because the time was up. The Constituted Authority says nope. So before reaching court, Buchanan also went to the Constituted Authority. Picture them as the guardians of Jamaica's electoral matrix. He said the election had enough irregularities to be voided under Section 37E. The authority examined the evidence, stroked their parliamentary beards metaphorically, and said, "You reach, but you didn't bring the sauce." They admitted irregularities happened because Jamaica, but said nothing hit the legal threshold to void the entire election, so they shut it down. The Supreme Court verdict. Patriotic comrades, the Supreme Court pulled no punches. They said the judicial review application wasn't arguable. It was late. It was legally doomed, and even if they did grant the orders, it would still be void because Parliament set the deadlines. Timeline in electoral matters is like KFC closing time. If them lock the door, your future is simply not in alignment. And so, with one ruling, the court essentially told Buchanan this case can't even start because it's already done. The real drama. But hold on. The mystery of those final 18 ballot boxes still hangs over the story, and strange election night swings always spark debate in Jamaica. People want to know what really a guan. So in a future episode, we're diving deep into how Jamaica counts votes, while late boxes flip results, and whether the system needs upgrades. Here's a summary of the highlights and the key points. Quick recap. Holness trailed after 87 boxes, but one after 18 from Seaward Gardens flipped the results. Buchanan challenged the outcome, alleging irregularities. Election complaints must be filed within 14 days. Buchanan missed the window. The Constituted Authority rejected his requests due to insufficient evidence. The Supreme Court dismissed his judicial review for being late and lacking grounds. Judge Win Blair called the delay unexplained and the case a legal knockout blow. So patriotic comrades, Comrade Paul Buchanan loses latest bid to overturn Holness victory in St. Andrew Central. So the Supreme Court has dismissed Paul Buchanan's latest attempt to unseat and overturn the election result what happened in St. Andrew West Central on September 3rd. A seat that was won by Prime Minister Andrew Holness. So the main issue where the judge had with the case was that there's a mandatory statutory window or a timeline period where you have to challenge the election results. So if you make that 14-day window they expire, you don't have a case. And as we can see based on the result, when you enter the court, the judge are going to dismiss the case because you missed the window, the 14-day window, and at that reach Comrade Paul Buchanan. So because of that, it make the judicial review futile. It never make no sense in challenge the case after missing that 14-day window. So I don't know if Comrade Paul Buchanan did know or him and his lawyer them never know so there was a 14 window timeline where they need to do that in order to have a case in the Supreme Court. But how you not supposed to know something like that? And here I thought this was the way to get Prime Minister Holness from that seat of Prime Minister and replace him with somebody else. All our way did across with fingers, we say yes, we finally catch him. In electoral matters, time is of the essence. Therefore, not only must this court be satisfied that the threshold test for leave is just another word for permission in legal terms, has been surmounted, but there must also be an overlay of electoral realities as a matter of law, the judge said. She concluded that the threshold test has not been surmounted. The Constituted Authority is a special independent public body created under Jamaica's election laws to protect the integrity of national elections by deciding whether a flawed election should be sent to the election court, which could void results. The statutory period for the Constituted Authority to apply for the election court to void the taking of a poll is 14 days from the date the poll was taken. So in other words, it is the duty of the Constituted Authority to put the case in the election court within 14 days after September 3rd. If I'm reading this correctly and if I'm interpreting this correctly, that's how this I say. Zane? So because after the 14 days of September 3rd general election, that are the window, that are the timeline where the Constituted Authority is supposed to apply to the election court to void that September 3rd runoff between Holness and Buchanan. And the said Constituted Authority said Buchanan's irregularities never meet the legal threshold to void the election. So I guess that's the legal loophole where basically save the day for Holness. So even though Comrade Paul Buchanan went over the head of the Constituted Authority and applied for a judicial review, that said judicial review still not gonna make no sense, because the 14-day window is the timeline where the said Constituted Authority has to apply to the election court to void the election, and that never happened. We said the Constituted Authority rejected Comrade's Paul Buchanan application for void the election. I hope me make sense. So in other words, the judicial review could not save Comrade Paul Buchanan based on what the judge has said in the Supreme Court. This period of inaction between September 3rd to September 15, 2025 remains unexplained by Mr. Buchanan, the justice said. The election took place on September 3rd, with the 14-day statutory window for the Constituted Authority to apply to the election court opening next. Buchanan did not submit his requests to the authority until September 16, virtually on the eve of the deadline. Following the authority's refusal on September 30, Buchanan submitted his application to the Supreme Court on October 8th. The unexplained delay in taking any steps to prosecute the electoral matter did not make judicial review an effective remedy when viewed within the legislative scheme, Justice Wint Blair said. So basically, no patriotic comrades, the judge basically explained that the mere fact say he missed the window of the 14-day statutory timeline. She said him asking for a judicial review is not an effective remedy or a silver bullet or a solution, you see me, for the matter, because he never filed within the 14-day timeline. So him doing all this judicial review was just a waste of time, basically. Nothing needed to come off this, based on what the judge just explained. Justice Wint Blair also said Buchanan did not provide details on his inaction during the period since the election date, which is the period of inaction which you talk about is between September 3rd to September 15, 2025. The judge said that remains unexplained by Mr. Buchanan. So within that unexplained delay which caused all of the problem, the judge basically has said the inaction between September 3rd to 15 is where Comrade Paul Buchanan dropped the ball. That the judge basically has said. Do you think the 14-day deadline should be extended for election challenges? Let me hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's breakdown of legal drama, electoral chaos, and some good old-fashioned Jamaican political plot twist, smash the like button, drop a comment with your theory about those final 18 boxes, and hit subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive.